Okay, listen up. I'm Alex, and this is First 5, where I ask if games are worth your time, not your money. I played a game for 5 hours, and I'm going to tell you if those were 5 hours well spent. Today, we're staving off emoji tribbles in the puzzler Yuso. My experience with Yuso has been strange. It has a simple, well-defined set of rules that it almost completely explains in 10 minutes. But despite understanding exactly how this game's mechanics work, I still feel like I don't know what I'm doing half the time. I've spent more time trying to puzzle out this clueless sensation than I have playing the game, and honestly, this review is going to be mostly about exploring that, because it's at the core of my response to it. So the basics of how this game works are this. When you pop a Yuso, it takes any of its adjacent fellows that are the same color with it, while changing those that aren't to its color. But you can only pop Yuso that are next to others of the same color. Add in bombs that do the same thing on a designated turn, sleeping Yuso that take an extra hit to wake up before they can be manipulated, and nightcaps that work like bombs but put Yuso to sleep instead. And that's all the mechanics right there. And yet, despite this easily understood rule set, more often than not, I find myself clicking at random through a puzzle until I accidentally stumble into something that looks like a workable solution. Understanding Yuso's relatively simple mechanics is easy, but understanding the moment-to-moment implications of what popping an individual Yuso will make the board look like in 3 turns is much harder. You can look at a move and say, okay, this will wake up 4 sleeping Yuso and change another one's color. But what is that going to mean in 2 turns when the board looks entirely different? Did you need those Yuso to stay asleep for a later move? Did you need to start somewhere else? The only way to figure it out is to keep going and see if you make it to the end of the puzzle. At its lowest moments, Yuso feels like a Rubik's Cube. There's no defined starting point, so the only way to really solve it is to just start tinkering around with it. But unless you know exactly how to do so and what you're looking for, you'll probably just be spinning a bunch of blocks around for an hour, and progress will more often than not turn out to be an illusion, as you realize you screwed up 10 minutes ago and have been going off in the completely wrong direction. And the amount Yuso explains itself is like handing a Rubik's Cube to someone and explaining how to use their hands to turn the blocks, but not the fact that you want to start by solving the white side. Or, generally, you want to start solving a side by making a cross shape. So you're left putzing around with trial and error until you discover it yourself. And that wouldn't necessarily be a problem on its own, except many of the levels that stick out most for this issue are also levels that give you hundreds of potential choices and paths. And with so many options before you, it's impossible to figure out where to start, other than to just pick somewhere, and hope you figure something out in the process. Take stage 36, one of the most egregious examples of this. You start with 8 different Yuso you can click on. Hit one of the corner Yuso, and now you have 9 choices on your second turn. Hit one in the middle, and now you have 13, and so on. There are hundreds of different ways this puzzle could go. And again, this isn't necessarily a bad thing on its own. Many puzzle games feature dozens of moving parts and are perfectly fine. Likewise, plenty of puzzle games feature trial and error gameplay where half the challenge is figuring out what you're supposed to be doing. But do both and you're in Rubik's Cube territory, where the possibility space is just too big to meaningfully calculate, and you're just as likely to stumble into the answer by pure luck as you are to find it through actual intentional play. Luckily, Yuso whips itself into shape about halfway through because it starts narrowing that possibility space. I, ironically, began to feel less lost as puzzles grew stricter and more demanding, as that strictness gave me some direction to start with. This happened in 2 ways. One, sleeping Yuso became increasingly prevalent, meaning I had fewer options for starting points and could more reliably figure out what might work and which decisions were non-starters. The second way was by introducing a catch to overcome. In many of Yuso's later puzzles, you'll quickly find a single holdout that always puts a wrench in any plan and comes to define the puzzle, usually in the form of an obstinately sleepy Yuso. A catch, if you will. And when you hit these snags, the puzzle suddenly gains direction, as it becomes less about how to remove all the Yuso and more how to work your way around this one specific roadblock. And in the process, most of the rest of the puzzle falls in line. Take stage 54 as an example. You have these 3 packs of different colored Yusos. It would normally be a cakewalk to just pop each group and on to the next level you go. But there are bombs on the level that explode on the second turn, meaning there will always be one group getting hit by the bombs. And it turns out the way to get past this problem is to do this. Of course, I purposely picked a simple example, but the point is that Yuso does best when it limits its players' options and introduces a catch like Stage 54 does. Most moves lead to one of only a handful of conclusions, and there's an obvious problem that you have to think your way around, both traits which are largely absent in Yuso's earlier levels. This brings me to the verdict. If you're a puzzle junkie really looking for a new game to take a crack at, if this is your genre, you'll probably end up enjoying Yuso, but otherwise, I'd say this one is skippable. And considering I've completed all 100 of Yuso's stages and didn't entirely enjoy my time getting there to begin with, I'm not interested in trying to milk more time out of this one. And, you know, if you do decide to brave Yuso, I think that's a perfectly fine decision. Like I said, despite my frustrations, there's still a nugget of fun to be had here. Yuso does eventually click, but in a saturated market where you have so many other options for puzzle game fixes, there's nothing special here to warrant wading through the frustrating parts to see it. Hey, do you believe that your time is the most valuable thing you have? Do you want to find more games that respect that time? This channel is all about finding games that don't pad themselves and can be completed in a reasonable amount of time. So if that sounds appealing to you, consider hitting that subscribe button. But regardless, thanks for watching this far, and I'll see you all next week.